High above and below in both land and sky, where clouds form a boundless memeance, lie the skylands. Islands shimmer like jewels, their floating islands' edges laced with cascading waterfalls that plunge into misty abysses. Here the air hums with the melody of wind chimes and bird songs, a symphony unique to this ethereal land. And on the largest island was the kingdom Ethra, Lyra, a young angel whose beauty shines with the dawn's light. Each sunrise is a blessing. Lyra whispers her gratitude, extending her hand to summon a dazzling ball of light, a rainbow of colors materializing above her palm. With focused intent, she shapes it into birds and flowers, commanding their dance. These luminous creations mirror the beauty of Ethra itself, where wizards and dragons gather to greet the sun as Lyra surges the light towards the rising orb. As the radiant energy caresses the sun, warmth sweeps over the skylands, and Ethra's waterfalls shimmer with intensified hues. Protecting this enchanting landscape kingdom were majestic dragons, emerald and gold, their resonant roar echoing through the clouds as it circles Ethra thrice. The guardians against the creatures that lurk in the deep dark, always vigilant. One day, a sinister presence begins to encroach upon Ethra. As the dark creatures close in, a sudden inferno of flames erupts, driving them back into the shadows, a fiery warning against disturbing the peace of Ethra. In the heart of the kingdom where vibrant flora thrives and waterfalls shimmer with renewed brilliance, Lyra greets the dawn with hope, a shimmering aura surrounding her. She once again conjures the dazzling orb of light, crafting more colorful birds and flowers, reflecting Ethra's unwavering beauty. But a shadow looms large as dark creatures attempt to infiltrate their realm, threatening the very harmony Lyra cherishes. Determined to safeguard her home, Lyra summons the majestic guardian dragons, that's powerful wings stir the air. As the dragon circles above, one unleashes a fiery display that sends the dark creatures retreating. But Lyra understands that mere strength isn't enough. She must forge a bond amongst the various wizards and magical beings of Ethra to create a united front, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. In a breathtaking assembly atop the tallest waterfall, wizards and magical creatures gather, drawn together by Lyra's unwavering spirit. They channel their unique powers into a collective shield of light, power surging with every beat of their hearts. As the combined magical energy pulsates, the dark forces amass for a final desperate showdown. In the climax, Lyra discovers that her true power lies not only in her inherent magic, but in the strength and unity of those around her. Together they create a dazzling light so intense, so pure, that it banishes the darkness forever. The threat vanquished, Ethra bathed in everlasting peace and harmony. The skylands, filled with thunderous beautiful beasts, are forever in awe of Lyra's courage and the unwavering bond between dragons and wizards. The final days of darkness within Ethra's walls are over. Now within Ethra, everyone can find their purpose, a duty to remain forever graceful and grateful for Lyra's sacrifice. But even with peace secured, a question lingers in Lyra's heart. Safe within Ethra's mystical gates, cloaked and safeguarded by magic, what awaits her if she were to ever step beyond their shimmering veil? What wonders or dangers lie beyond the clouds? The answer, she knew, awaited her in the unknown. Lyra, the shimmering young angel princess of Ethra, drifting gently into dreams of distant worlds. King Arcster, her mighty father, watches with a heart full of pride and concern for his brave daughter. Concerned for Lyra, King Arcster insists she be guarded by Cytherea, the blessed dragon of Ethra. Cytherea accepts the sacred duty eagerly, a thank-you gift to Lyra for her brave acts. Lyra loves the idea of a guardian companion, feeling a deep bond with Cytherea before they set off. As they gaze to the horizon, Lyra senses her father's awe and tears, a mix of pride and worry. Cytherea reassures Lyra that Ethra remains safe while they explore the mysteries ahead. On the path, Lyra spots wondrous crafted ships nestled among the woods and wonders who else might live here. Every creature in the flower beds and bushes glows under Lyra's radiant light, blooming in her luminous presence. From daylight to twilight shadows, Lyra's light guides and blossoms every corner of the land she roams. Lyra's journey is one of light, hope and unity, restoring what darkness once tried to claim. You can almost feel the magic in the air as Lyra and Cytherea step into the unknown together. The bond between angel and dragon is unbreakable, a true partnership forged in light and trust. As darkness once threatened Aethra, Lyra now shines as a beacon of unity and hope. They bid farewell to every soul in Aethra, ready to face the unknown horizons ahead. Every step forward is a promise that light will always find a way through darkness. Nightfall loomed, swallowing the land as Lyra and Cytherea searched desperately for shelter. "Over here. Can't be out at night, it gets dangerous," a crackling voice urges through the dark. Hope flickered. Guided by the voice, Lyra and Cytherea edged toward the hidden refuge amid blossoms and chirping birds. "You're brave, an angel and dragon wandering near dawn," the voice teased from within the shed. Curiosity overrode fear as Lyra stepped inside. Cytherea vowed to stand guard outside the shed. Inside, the tiny goblin named Pirio reassured Lyra. "No harm will come to you here." Pirio shared his fearful secret. "Giants rule these lands at dawn. You don't want to see what happens." Lyra felt the weight of fear but welcomed the warning. It meant a chance to prepare. Dawn's first light painted the sky golden as Cytherea spotted looming threats and called to Lyra. "Use the spiritual orb to banish the giants," Cytherea urged as danger closed in swiftly. Pirio panicked, shouting, "Not my home! Not again!" as the giants neared. "Leave it to me," Cytherea vowed, breathing fierce flame near the giant's feet. Lyra's heart pounds as she grips the glowing orb, ready to unleash its power. A blinding flash floods the scene as the orb pulses, transforming the giants into radiant dust. Pirio gasps, amazed. "You really are something," eyes wide with wonder and respect. Lyra's confidence grows as she starts to understand the orb's power and their next challenge. The trio contemplates the border, a mysterious boundary beyond all known lands, a realm untouched. Pirio offers to guide the duo through the unknown, blending gratitude with his own hidden greed. An unlikely alliance forms, angel, dragon, and goblin, ready to face the wonders and dangers beyond. Lyra, a young angel growing stronger with every step, her bond with Cytherea the dragon deepening. With a newly obtained hearthstone, Lyra's journey beyond known lands begins, led by Cytherea and their new goblin guide Pirio. But beware, Pirio's goblin instincts stir dark plans. Betrayal lurks just beyond the horizon. As they reach the borderlands, Pirio cunningly separates Cytherea from Lyra. Both shout in unison, "Knew you weren't to be trusted," as Pirio only laughs, dark motives showing. Cytherea takes flight, desperate to protect Lyra, but the danger proves darker than expected. Pirio's trick leads them into a deep gorge, foul dragon's cursed territory, thick with gloom and danger. Cytherea warns Lyra not to take to the skies, danger lurks above, but Lyra barely hears the caution in the thick gloom. Lyra presses deeper into the gorge, struggling to see through thick gloom as Pirio's chilling voice echoes, "You're doomed." Cytherea keeps her fury hidden, surrounded by foul dragons and banished wizards. An epic clash is inevitable. Roars fill the clouds above. Lyra prays Cytherea is safe but recalls the stern warning not to take flight. Suddenly, Cytherea's cries echo down. The battle rages and she's losing ground against dark dragons. Determined, Lyra channels the Hearthstone's power, forcing the foul dragons to flee. But was it too late? Rushing to Cytherea's side, Lyra cries out in horror. Her brave dragon companion is badly injured. Pirio watches from a distance, surprised they survived, then vanishes into shadows, never to be seen again. Through pain and betrayal, Lyra and Cytherea stand stronger, ready to face whatever darkness lies ahead. Lyra, angel once filled with joy, now choked back a sob, her hands on her dragon's wounds red with Cytherea's lukewarm blood. The scales, normally shimmering emerald and gold, were dull, chipped, and crusted over. "Please, Cytherea, just hold on," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Cytherea, her once powerful head resting heavily on the scorched ground, let out a weak puff of smoke, a sound more like a sigh than a roar. They were lost, driven deep into uncharted territory by the desperate need to escape the bloodthirsty grim creatures and warlocks. The goblins' shortcut had been anything but. Now Cytherea, her loyal dragon guardian since Lyra was a young one, was fading fast. Lyra, seeing Cytherea in this state, couldn't help but dwell on the feeling of losing her by her side, and Cytherea's blood covering Lyra's hands made it even harder for Lyra as she dreaded. Lyra, with her hope of maintaining Cytherea's wounds, started to remember flickers of good memories, cherished ones of her all Aethra, including every living creature in those skylands, wondering if her father King Arkster were still all right, sobbing even more. In the distance, through the haze of exhaustion and fear, Lyra saw it, a shimmering, almost ethereal structure, a palace unlike anything she had ever seen. With a surge of adrenaline of pure desperation, Lyra urged Cytherea forward. "Just a little further, Cytherea. We're almost there." They reached the palace gates, carved with depictions of dragons and mythical beasts. Just as Cytherea's breath rattled in her chest, the dragon collapsed, her legs giving way beneath her. Lyra screamed, fear in her heart. A figure emerged from the palace, robes of swirling blues and silvers flowing around him. He moved with an almost unnatural grace, his eyes, the color of mystical ice, fixed on Cytherea. Rowan Frostwind. He was a wizard, a powerful one, judging by the aura that seemed to flow from him. He wondered, looking at Cytherea's unfamiliar breed, and her rough wounds, with a flicker of surprise before his face became a mask of focused determination. "Quickly, bring her into the healing chamber," he commanded, his voice carrying an authority that dared to start no argument. Lyra, in a sign of relief, helped Rowan and his assistants carry Cytherea inside. She watched, tears streaming down her face, as Rowan began his work. He chanted in ancient ways, his hands waving patterns of light above Cytherea's wounds. Hours bled into what felt like an eternity. Finally, as the dawn began to fill the sky in hues of rose and gold, Rowan stepped back, wiping sweat from his head. "She's stable," he announced. "She's incredibly strong, but another hour and... well, you arrived just in time." Lyra rushed to Cytherea's side, stroking her scales. "Thank you," Cytherea whispered, turning to Rowan, her voice with emotion. "Thank you from the bottom of my heart." Rowan studied her, his eyes piercing. How did a dragon like her sustain such injuries? And what were you doing so far from known lands? Lyra poured out her story. She spoke of the goblins' betrayal, the horrifying battle against the grim creatures and the warlocks, the desperate flight for survival. She confessed her ultimate aim, to bring lasting peace to Luminoria, to eliminate the shadows that cause threat to other lands. His expression softened. "It is foolish to trust goblins," he said, shaking his head slightly. But then a spark of interest lit his eyes. Luminoria was a land fractured by centuries of conflict, the idea of true peace a distant dream. Lyra's ambition were true to her heart, almost convincing, yet compelling. "No one has dared to dream of such a thing," he mused. "To bring peace to Luminoria, it is a noble, if daunting, goal." He met Lyra's gaze, a newfound resolve hardening his features. "I would be horned to help you." Days turned into weeks as Cytherea recovered under Rowan's care. Lyra, meanwhile, explored the Dragon Palace, its ancient libraries, and the peaceful between dragons and wizards. When Cytherea was finally healed, strong and vibrant once more, Lyra could hardly contain her joy. She shared with Cytherea Rowan's desire to join them on their journey. Cytherea, her golden eyes gleaming, listened intently. When Lyra finished, she turned her attention to Rowan, her gaze intense. "You claim you wish to aid us, wizard," she said, her voice now strong and resonant. Know this. The path we walk is filled with danger. You may not see this palace again for many years, if ever. Are you prepared to make such a sacrifice? Rowan met Cytherea's unwavering gaze. His decision had been made the moment he heard Lyra's story, the hope in her voice. He saw a flicker of his own desire for a better Luminoria reflected in her eyes. I am, he said, his voice firm. The comfortable study is nothing compared to the chance to build a lasting peace. Cytherea fixed her gaze on Lyra, her eyes filled with wisdom. The wizard seems determined. You trust him, Lyra? Lyra nodded, her heart filled with gratitude. I do, Cytherea. Cytherea tilted her head, a low rumble vibrating in her chest. Very well, she announced. Then let us take our leave. She spread her massive wings, casting a long shadow across the palace courtyard. Then, with Lyra on her back and Rowan at their side, they soared into the dawn, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. A determined dragon, a hopeful angel, and a wizard with a shared dream of Luminoria, a world free from shadows. They set off. The wind held a mournful song across the blighted plains of Luminoria, a constant reminder of the encroaching shadows that choked the land. Lyra, a no-brave angel, her wings now shimmering with celestial light, stood beside Cytherea, her silver and white shining dragon catching the bleak sunlight. Beside them, Rowan Frostwind, their newly formed allied great mage, his robes swirling around him like a miniature snowstorm, consulted his ancient tomes. They were an unlikely trio. An angel forged in fire, a warrior touched by starlight, and a wizard wielding the very power of winter. Their mission, to banish the shadows and restore peace to the shattered world. I believe I have found it, Rowan announced, his voice a low rumble against the wind. A path to permanently sever the shadow's hold. But it is dangerous. He revealed his plan, venturing into the underworld in search of the Key of Realms. This artifact, he explained, could unlock the power to travel between dimensions, including the source of the shadow's influence. Only a wizard of immense power and unwavering heart, like himself, could wield it. If it fell into the wrong hands, the consequences would be catastrophic. Chaos unleashed upon Luminoria and beyond. Cytherea, ever the pragmatist, saw the potential. A swift, decisive strike. It appeals to me. Lyra, however, hesitated. The memory of almost losing Cytherea to the shadow creatures was still a raw wound. The underworld. Rowan, are you sure? It's incredibly dangerous. I barely managed to protect Cytherea last time. Can I truly protect you? She mumbled, her voice barely audible even to herself. Despite her angelic strength, the burden of responsibility weighed heavily on her. Rowan's kind eyes met hers. Your strength is not in brute force, Lyra, but in your unwavering spirit. You have faced darkness and emerged stronger. I trust you implicitly. However, he didn't dismiss her concerns. He offered an alternative, albeit a treacherous one. There is another way, more arduous, but perhaps less fraught with peril for me. We could attempt to retrieve the key from the Gorge of Whispers. Lyra's breath hitched. The Gorge. The place where Pirio, the trickster goblin, had abandoned them to their doom. It was a gauntlet of physical and psychological torment, riddled with traps and haunted by the echoes of past suffering. Cytherea raised an eyebrow. The Gorge? That path is a death sentence. It is dangerous, yes, Rowan acknowledged, but Lyra has traversed it once before. She knows its secrets, its pitfalls. It is a gamble, but perhaps a more manageable one considering the stakes. Lyra stared towards the distant, jagged peaks where the gorge lay hidden. A shiver ran down her spine, not from the cold, but from the memory of the terror she had felt there. But she also remembered the resilience she had discovered within herself. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and finally spoke, her voice firm despite her inner taunt. I know the gorge. I know its horrors. I know what to expect. The underworld, that's an unknown. But couldn't bear it if something happened to you, Rowan, knowing I couldn't do enough. Cytherea nodded in understanding. Then we go to the gorge. We face the echoes of the past, and we claim the key. Rowan smiled, a sliver of warmth in the desolate landscape. Then let us prepare. We will need all our strength, our will, and our courage to survive the Gorge of Whispers. But together we shall prevail. As they began their preparations, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling of dread. The gorge wasn't just a physical obstacle. It was a battle against her own fears, against the memory of Pirio's betrayal, against the doubt at her heart. But looking at Cytherea's resolute face and Rowan's determined gaze, she knew she wasn't alone. This time they would face the shadows together, and they would emerge victorious, for Luminoria's sake. Their journey had just gotten more dangerous, and the whispers of the gorge were already calling. The cold, damp air of the gorge clung to Lyra and Cytherea like a shroud. The darkness was oppressive, a tangible thing that pressed in on them, thick and chilling. This path felt endless, but they were close to their goal. Now, Lyra said, her voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space, we have to be careful. She held aloft the hearthstone, its warm orange glow pushing back the encroaching shadows. Rowan, his face etched with concentration, raised his staff. A beam of pure white light erupted from the crystal at its apex, slashing through the swirling foul mist that clung to the gorge floor. The effect was immediate. Ghastly, skeletal figures, the grim creatures, recoiled from the light, hissing and dissolving back into the darkness from which they came. Only the warlocks remained, their eyes burning with malevolent intent, cloaked in shadow and muttering incantations. They were clearly on the move, converging towards the three travelers. Cytherea, her expression grim, soared into the air. Her wings beat powerfully, stirring the reeking air. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, she unleashed a torrent of pure energy, a sonic boom of force that ripped through the ranks of the warlocks. Some were incinerated instantly, their dark magic no match for her raw power. Others were hurled against the canyon walls, their bodies crumpling into lifeless heaps. Landing gracefully back on the ground, Cytherea watching the scene. That should give us some breathing room. Rowan, his brow furrowed, pointed towards a distant glimmer, barely visible through the thinning mist. The key is just past those hills, he said, a hint of relief in his voice. They pressed forward, their pace quickening. As they crested the last ridge, the gorge opened before them, and a blinding light washed over them. It was a light so profound, so pure, that it felt like a physical cleansing, erasing the grime of the gorge not just from their bodies, but from their memories, the lingering shadows of the past lifting like morning mist. In the center of the clearing, radiating an almost palpable energy, floated an orb of iridescent light. It was breathtakingly beautiful, mesmerizing. And Lyra, with a shock that resonated deep within her soul, recognized it. It was her orb. Lyra, Cytherea whispered, her voice laced with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Lyra stared at the orb, a wave of confusion washing over her. She had never been told of such a thing. Rowan stepped forward, his expression serious. I never told you about it, Lyra. It had to be this way. I needed you both to confront your past, to conquer the darkness within yourselves. Things wouldn't have gone well if you hadn't. You needed to be ready. Ready for what? Cytherea demanded, her voice sharp. And how did Lyra come to possess the key of realms? Lyra shook her head, still reeling. I don't know. I don't remember where it came from. It was passed on to my father, Arcster, king of Ithra. He always said it was a sacred relic, to be protected above all else. Cytherea's gaze flicked to Rowan, her eyes narrowed. She knew more than she was letting on. She knew with a certainty that resonated deep within her bones, that the orb held a significance that Lyra was oblivious to. She remembered a prophecy whispered in hushed tones amongst the ancient dragons, of a princess destined to wield the key, a princess whose heritage was shrouded in secrets. And she knew with equal certainty that Rowan's intentions were far from clear. She needed to observe him to understand his motives. Was he truly a guide, leading them towards peace and stability for Luminoria? Or was he a manipulator, using them as pawns in a game she couldn't yet comprehend? Cytherea kept her silence, her keen eyes watching Rowan, searching for the flicker of deception, the telltale sign that would reveal his true purpose. The light of the orb illuminated his face, but his intentions remained true as well as Lyra's. Now with Cytherea at much ease as she decided to back away her gaze now that she knew Rowan's true intentions. As told Lyra, indeed your father's words are correct. Lyra, you must keep that orb safe no matter what. In a firm voice Rowan, a wise wizard, said to her and Cytherea, as now they could all rely heavily on each other to have such hope, forming what was possibly the most noble group of all Luminoria. Cytherea thought to herself, LYRA is growing up to be something special. As Lyra and Rowan called out to Cytherea, well, let's be on our way, Rowan said in his calm but persuasive voice. So the trio ventured onwards through the vast lands, heading towards the gates of the Keeper. The air hung thick with anticipation as they neared the gates of banishment. Lyra's angel shimmer, usually a radiant beacon, flickered weakly, mirroring their dwindling hope. Cytherea, the last known dragon for leagues, shifted impatiently, her scales catching the last rays of the dying sun. We need rest, Cytherea, great dragon, grumbled, her voice a low rumble that shook the very ground. Rowan, the wise mage, ever the cautious wizard, nodded. Agreed. There's a cave nearby. We'll make camp there for the night. As dusk settled, they found the cave, its entrance shrouded by gnarled trees. Rowan, despite his exhaustion, took the first watch. His magic thrummed beneath his skin, a comforting shield against the encroaching darkness. Lyra and Cytherea settled down, their breathing soon even and deep. But their respite was short-lived. A guttural screech pierced the silence, followed by the scrabbling of hundreds of feet. Rowan was on his feet in an instant, his staff blazing with arcane energy. So I finally found you. A sneering voice echoed from the darkness. Pirio emerged, followed by a swarm of goblins, their eyes glinting with malice. Replaced, was I? Well, I'm here to finish my job this time. There's no running and hiding. Cytherea exploded from her slumber, her roar shaking the cave. Lyra, jolted awake, unleashed a burst of brilliant light. You again? Cytherea roared, her eyes blazing. Realizing the raw vengeance simmering in their gazes, Rowan acted swiftly. He cast a protective spell, binding the dragon and the angel, restraining them. Not like this, he muttered, knowing the path of revenge could consume them. Then, he faced Pirio, the goblin leading his goblin horde. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashed a blizzard, freezing Pirio and many of the goblins solid. The remaining goblins, momentarily stunned, were met with Cytherea's fiery breath and Lyra's blinding emerald light. The battle was brief and brutal. When the last goblin lay vanquished, Rowan collapsed, exhaustion and pain lancing through him. He had shielded Lyra and Cytherea, taking the brunt of Pirio's attacks. He tried to heal himself but found his energy depleted. Lyra rushed to his side, laying her hands on his wounds. Cytherea, her flames extinguished, regarded him with a strange mixture of defiance and respect. Foolish to take them all on yourself, Cytherea rumbled. But brave, I'll grant you that. Still, why stop us? Why stop our revenge? Rowan, his voice strained, replied. I feared your hearts would turn to darkness. Revenge. It's a treacherous path, one from which it's difficult to return. Cytherea's posture softened. I'm afraid Rowan's right, Lyra said, her shimmering gaze filled with remorse. We had the wrong intentions. That leads down a dark path. She finished healing Rowan's wound, stepping back with relief. You should be all good now. Thank you, Rowan, not just for stopping us, but for saving us from ourselves. With Rowan patched up and the threat of Pirio gone, they pressed on. The gates of banishment loomed, a stark reminder of the world's fractured peace. But one crucial element was missing. Where is the keeper? Rowan asked, scanning the desolate landscape. Suddenly a low rumble echoed through the air. A horde of giants lumbered away from the gates, their footsteps shaking the ground. Disbelief washed over Rowan. Were the giants the gatekeeper's protectors? Or had they? Then a voice cut through the chaos. I am the gatekeeper. They looked up to see a figure perched atop a collapsed tower, almost invisible against the fading light. She was slight of build, but her voice held an undeniable authority. LYRA Sunshard, she declared. I demand an answer. Did you send the giants here? Her eyes narrowed. If not, who are you and what is it you seek? Rowan stepped forward, his voice calm despite the turmoil within him. My name is Rowan Frostwind, a mage of the Dragon Palace. This is LYRA Nightingale, an angel, and her tryst dragon companion Cytherea, guardian of Aethra. No, we had nothing to do with the giants. We sought this place, seeking you, gatekeeper LYRA Sunshard, in hope for a map of all Luminoria so we can bring peace to this once peaceful world once more, Rowan said, his voice filled with unwavering conviction. LYRA Sunshard continued to stare down at them, her expression unreadable, as if she were weighing the truth in his words before she would deliver an answer. The blazing wind whipped LYRA Sunshard's silver hair around her face as she observed the trio before her. Rowan, the wise-looking mage, and his companions, the fiery dragon Cytherea and the bright-eyed angel LYRA. She'd seen their urgency, felt the tremors of their determination as they approached her post. I see you all are fighting for quite a noble cause, she said, her voice a low, resonant hum. You were wise to seek me out, though I am bound to my duty at this post and can't join you, as my knowledge would have been much needed. She offered a regretful smile. I can't grant you a map of Luminorioa. The giants destroyed my tower, along with my powerful possessions. LYRA's face immediately fell. Oh no. However, LYRA continued, her eyes twinkling, I can see clearly that I can entrust you with my two-headed hound Orion. LYRA's face lit up instantly. Ah, he's so cute, she exclaimed, spotting a tawny-furred hound emerging from the shadows. Cute indeed, LYRA agreed, a hint of amusement in her voice. But I will warn you, he's a chatterbox. Doesn't know when to shut up. Cytherea and LYRA exchanged amused glances. Rowan, ever the pragmatist, frowned. But why? What use is a two-headed hound like Orion to us? Cytherea nudged him sharply. How rude, she hissed, but quickly conceded. That is a good question, though. Someone as knowledgeable as LYRA Sunshard must have a reason for this. LYRA nodded. Orion will not only be a friendly companion, but many things. He will fight alongside you, listen when you need, but most importantly, she emphasized, two-headed hounds such as Orion are extremely fast. He can guide you, be a scout, a hunter. Hounds have many additional benefits, but Orion has something no other hound does. She reached behind her and produced a delicate silver necklace, the pendant a glowing, swirling vortex of energy. Handing it to LYRA, she said, This is for Orion, and it will only activate once on his body. It is a sacred necklace, blessed with regenerative healing when Orion's injured, my final gift from my ancestors. Gratitude washed over the trio. Thank you, LYRA breathed, her voice thick with sincerity. With grateful hearts and a newfound hope, they set off, still unsure of the precise path they needed to take. It was then that Orion's role truly began. This way, he barked, his voice surprisingly high and expressive. He shot off like a bolt of lightning, racing towards a barely visible path that led into the shadows-drenched landscape, a road rumored to lead to the underworld. The hound left the trio far behind. Slow down, Orion, Cytherea roared, struggling to keep up despite her dragoon's strength. Even she, a dragonborn, was being outpaced by the energetic two-headed hound. Orion skidded into a halt and bounded back, his tail wagging furiously. Yeah, my bad. Didn't realize I was with a bunch of slowpokes, he barked, cracking one of the many jokes that seemed to flow from him effortlessly. Cytherea glared. No wonder you hounds have two heads. Rowan and Lyra burst into laughter, the tension momentarily broken. Orion, unfazed, simply grinned. Okay, fair enough. I deserved that. As they continued their journey, following the darkened path Orion knew but to his surprise Rowan as well to know, the trio learned quickly that LYRA Sunshard's gift was more than just a cute, fast two-headed hound. Orion was a loyal companion, a skilled scout, and a constant source of light in the encroaching darkness. He was, as LYRA had suggested, exactly what they needed. As the hound Orion howled and giggled, saying, I knew it, I knew this was the job, perfect job for me, aha, yes, finally I can roam around as fast as I want. Rowan cutting Orion short there, saying, only if we need you to, otherwise it's wise we stick together. Orion still talkative as always, saying, yeah, I get it, only if you need me to. Took the three longer than Lara would have thought, but they realized every word she spoke of Orion were true indeed. He couldn't help himself but talk and sing cheerfully as they were emerging close to the gates of the underworld. The gate hummed with a low thrum, not of power, but of a carefully constructed illusion. This is no ordinary gate, Rowan said, his voice low and serious voice. Sounding like a warlock went on, it's just here for looks, deception for all other travelers. As I continue to speak to you all, this is the gate that leads to the underworld. Another realm full of shadows, darkness, and deception. He turned, his gaze hardening on Orion, the hound that could guide them. Why have you taken us here, Orion? He demanded. Orion, usually a whirlwind of boundless energetic hound, shifted his weight. Mentioned the forge, he mumbled. If we are to catch hold of the scattered emerald shards, you guys are going to need much strength, but more so stronger gear. There's 3 shards we need to get, but first things first, you guys need newly forged armor. I mean, unless you don't want some. Orion joked and giggled, but well, he added, glancing at the angel Lyra. I'm not sure about Lyra, an angel with the power of hers. She seems to already have such a strong weapon of choice. Rowan, as the usual wise mage, considered this for a moment, then nodded as he understood. Fair enough. But I can't keep you all safe, Lyra protested, her voice laced with worry. Orion giggled, a sound strangely out of place in the oppressive atmosphere. But I can. I'll show you the safest routes. Cytherea, as powerful dragon, ever the pragmatist, nodded in agreement. Roared, let's go forth. Rowan, being the only wizard around, turned to Lyra. This is when I'll need the orb. Lyra, an angel that's had the orb from day one. Rowan said, that's the key. Lyra, angel, now so hesitated as she had never let go of her orb before, clutching the smooth sphere to her chest. After a moment, she reluctantly offered it to Rowan. I'll give it back, Rowan reassured her, though even he could sense the orb's reluctance. Rowan cast his spell upon the orb as it shinned, brighter than ever before. The gate creaked open, revealing not a road, but a dark swirling path made of shadowed clouds, leading downwards into the abyss. The faint echoes of haunting screams drifted up from the depths. That's awful, Cytherea said, taking a mighty dragon breath in, her face pale. They stepped onto the shadowy path, Rowan's magical staff lighting the way, piercing the darkness. Orion, being a hound true to his word, led them through what he called a safe passage, though it felt anything but. He should have added that safe was a term used loosely, and that this was a passage that had once been safe. Suddenly, Orion bumped into something solid. A guttural growl echoed, followed by the clatter of bone and the whispering hiss of magic. The group found themselves surrounded by a horde of banished dark warlocks, skeletal warriors, and shadowy dark elves. Not again, Rowan groaned, as if this was a recurring nightmare. Cytherea took a great dragon's breath and unleashed a sonic wave of inferno, incinerating several skeletons. Orion, reverting to a feral state, snapped and bit at the remaining skeletons, tearing them apart with surprising ferocity. It was a chaotic, brutal showdown, a desperate struggle to escape the encircling horde. But as quickly as it began, the creatures began to back away, fear flickering in their glowing eyes. Orion, triumphant, barked, "Yeah, be afraid." Rowan's eyes widened, followed by Cytherea and Lyra as behind them stood the Forge Master Darian Whitewood, a towering figure wreathed in shadow and heat. His eyes, like molten gold, pierced through the darkness. "Why have you come to this place?" he boomed, his voice resonating with ancient power. Orion, his usual playful giggly expressions vanished, spoke softly. "The great gatekeeper sent me to guide this noble group to you, in the hope that you could provide some armor." Darian remained impassive. "So, and what have I to gain from this?" "A world free of these cursed creatures," Orion replied. "We seek to bring lasting peace to Luminoria." Lyra and Rowan, emboldened, joined in. "We do." The Forge Master Darian remained skeptical. "That's impossible. This world has been shattered through all the many battle scars left behind." Rowan stepped forward, holding up the orb. "There's still hope." Darian's eyes sharpened. He knew of the ancient dragon's tale, and he secretly knew who they were. Though Cytherea did a good job hiding her true identity and the orb from Darian. So he agreed to craft everything they asked for and more. He created armor for Orion as well, saying, "Regardless, you can regenerate due to the gatekeeper's ancestor's necklace around you. If you get extremely injured, that necklace won't be able to help you in time." Orion looked surprised but in joy shouted, "You made this specifically for me? Oh boy, this fits perfectly on me, guys, don't you think? Aw, and it's shiny, that's a bonus." The group could see Orion overdoing it, so they all said at once, "Okay Orion, we see, just shut up and thank Darian already." "Okay, thanks Darian," in a grateful tone for the extra protection. Though they couldn't help but wonder what drove Darian to help just by a glance at Lyra's orb. Before they left, Darian said, "You know, instead of fighting your way out of this place, that orb can open a realm back to where you were last, the safest that is, I believe, just outside the gates of the underworld lands." Rowan stared at him in disbelief. "I knew this could open realms, but you're saying we can use it to travel back to the place we were last?" Darian nodded. "Exactly. Think of it as a teleportation tool, but use it as a last resort." With that knowledge, they parted ways. Rowan activated the orb, and just as Darian had said, it took them back outside the gate, to the relative safety of the path. Enhanced with new weapons and stronger armor, including Orion's, they set off, their quest for the emerald shards scattered over Luminoria. Years have passed since Lyra and her dragon Cytherea left Aethra behind, but memories still linger on. The memories of friendships forged and battles fought warm Lyra's heart, but Pirio's betrayal still haunts her. Rowan, the wise mage, senses Lyra's unrest during their journey and signals Orion to halt. Cytherea, sensing Lyra's mood shift, explains everything to Rowan with a low, concerned roar. Rowan asks Lyra gently, "What's troubling you?" Her voice trembles as she reveals her fear of losing Cytherea. Rowan tells Orion to comfort Lyra, while Cytherea is asked to keep her distance during the spell's cast. As Rowan chants ancient words, Lyra slowly drifts into a peaceful sleep, while Cytherea's roar fills the air with worry. Orion quietly tries to soothe Lyra, holding her hands tightly, projecting calm despite Cytherea's loud protests. Irritated, Orion snaps at Cytherea to keep quiet, hoping to maintain Rowan's concentration. Cytherea threatens Rowan with fiery vengeance if Lyra forgets her, eyes blazing like molten lava. Finally, Rowan finishes the spell, exhausted but resolute. What had to be done was done. Rowan beckons Cytherea down so Lyra can finally see her beloved dragon once more. Lyra wakes with a joyful cry, delighted to see Cytherea and her friends, as if for the first time again. Rowan blinks, confused by Lyra's words, "Welcome back." She has forgotten the dark shadows. Rowan explains the darkness that taunted her, then cheerfully suggests their next quest, finding emerald shards. Cytherea, eager to move on, enthusiastically agrees. "Yes, let's go." The adventure continues anew. Orion takes off at his usual breakneck speed, unaware the others are hiding, ready for a playful trick. The group stays silent, waiting patiently for Orion to realize he's left behind, smiles ready to burst. Eventually, Orion realizes he's alone and rushes back, only to find Rowan's blue robe on a stone, a playful trap. With laughter breaking free, the group jumps out, teasing Orion joyfully. "Who's the fool now?" Orion laughs along, admitting defeat. Cytherea advises him seriously to stop taking off like that. Orion grumbles but promises to try. The group stronger and united after healing old wounds. Freed from haunting memories, Lyra's spirit shines bright with joy and hope once again. Together they prepare to seek the 3 emerald shards, their bond stronger than ever. You can feel the excitement as old wounds heal and new adventures beckon on the horizon. Feel the magic in the air as Lyra breathes free from shadows of her forgotten past. Above, Cytherea, the dragon, patrols tirelessly with scales shimmering like liquid silver. On the ground, Orion bounces joyfully in hound form, howling his freedom with pure delight. Lyra snaps, trying to regain focus. "Orion, we're on a mission, not a joyride." Rowan, the wizard, studies an ancient tome, glowing softly with Lyra's angelic energy. Orion refuses to quiet down, claiming he's having the most fun in centuries. Rowan struggles, flipping pages, lips moving in silent incantations despite Orion's endless noise. Frustrated, Rowan slams the book and demands silence, threatening magical discipline. Finally, Rowan finds the clue. The emerald shard is in the giant's perilous realm. Lyra pales, recalling the giant's legendary might and deadly wrath. Cytherea's roar echoes, warning, "Giant's territory is no place for the faint-hearted." Orion stops his singing, tail down, sensing the shift to danger. Lyra warns Orion, "Giants are huge, unwelcoming, and extremely dangerous guests." Rowan admits the book holds no answers on giants, only a sleeping potion recipe and a troll sketch. The group's thrill dims, fear creeping in as the giants loom between them and the emerald shard. Lyra covers her mouth from the foul stench as they vow to grab the shard and flee fast. Orion shifts back to man form, struggling with the stench but doubling down on senses. Rowan mixes sleeping potions, ready if giants return, and they do, approaching fast. Rowan alerts the group frantically, pointing to the glowing emerald shard ahead. Cytherea swoops in, snatches the shard mid-flight, triggering an alarm among the giants. Cytherea orders Lyra to soar high, away from the giant's wrath. Orion, uneasy but loyal, barks for Rowan to jump on as they prepare a desperate escape. Orion growls uneasily but rockets away, spells flying at giants trying to catch them. Cytherea urges Lyra to keep safe, watching giants swipe futilely at Orion's speed. Suddenly disaster strikes. Rowan falls, losing his grip, hitting hard on the ground. Orion rushes to Rowan's side, apologizing with a sorrowful bark and tears in his eyes. Suddenly Cassian Ironheart appears, an imposing angel warrior clad in shining armor. Cassian rebukes Rowan gently, offering aid yet ready to fight at a moment's notice. Rowan shares his final plan. One powerful spell that may save them all, but at a great cost. Cassian agrees, calling it a noble warrior's death to protect all they hold dear. Orion, struggling to grasp it all, promises to drag Rowan out if needed, tears falling. Rowan explains the spell will stone the giants, but the caster will perish too. Cytherea arrives, roaring sorrowfully, questioning why Rowan must sacrifice himself. Cassian confirms it's Rowan's last act to keep everyone safe, and Rowan solemnly agrees. Rowan pleads with Cassian to protect Lyra, his last wish before unleashing the spell. Rowan shouts a final command to flee, then unleashes a devastating wave of magic. The giants turn to stone, trapped forever, while Rowan's whispered farewell echo through the air. Rowan's voice comforts Orion. "I'll miss you, Chatterface," as sorrow fills the air. Cytherea's fierce determination shines through Rowan's words. "Stay strong, never lose hope." Lyra feels Rowan's reassurance in a gentle pat, finding strength to keep moving forward. Rowan's grateful whispers to Cassian leave the new warrior speechless and honored. The group, heavy-hearted but united, marches onward with their new angelic ally. Lyra wonders silently about the mysteries behind Rowan's sacrifice. The crackling campfire cast dancing shadows on the faces of the assembled group, each illuminated by the flickering flames and a shared purpose. An unlikely alliance, forged in the crucible of danger and guided by the whispered promise of a shattered world made whole. But tonight, the air was thick with a different kind of intensity, the quiet curiosity of understanding. At the heart of it all was Cassian Ironheart, a warrior angel of formidable presence. His very being radiated power, yet he was surprisingly gentle. He had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, a guardian sent by the late wizard Rowan, with a singular directive to protect Lyra. He broke the silence with a resonant voice. "So which of you is Lady Lyra?" Rowan's final words were for me to safeguard her with all my might. I, Cassian Ironheart, won't let Rowan's wishes be forgotten. I'll protect Lady Lyra, and all of you beside her. But the air suddenly turned tense. Orion, taking the form of a tall, imposing man, his voice laced with suppressed fury, growled, "You dare speak his name? You never knew the wizard." Cassian, unfazed by the outburst, calmly responded, "Indeed I didn't. But a very wise and loyal wizard he must have been. That spell he cast, only one of the great arcane wizards would have known it." The words hung heavy in the air, the weight of their implications settling upon the group. Lyra gasped, "Why?" Lyra, startled by the angel's pronouncement, whispered, "Thank you, thanks so much." Tears full of renewed hope and lingering grief filled her eyes. Cytherea, the ever-present, usually bossy guardian dragon, was uncharacteristically silent, stunned. Orion, visibly shaken, struggled to process this new revelation. Had they been traveling all this time with one of the legendary 5 great arcane wizards of Luminoria? Lyra, her voice rising with a mixture of disbelief and hurt, cried out, "Why would a great arcane wizard join me? Accompany me out of all the great things he could have done in the Dragon Palace?" Cassian answered her, his voice steady and unwavering. "Rowan was wise, yes, but he shared the same dream as you, Lady Lyra. Unlike the other great arcane wizards of Luminoria who sat comfortably in their places, Rowan wanted change, peace for all Luminoria, just like you. He saw you as his opportunity to do so." Listening intently, the group realized that Cassian, despite his brief acquaintance with Rowan, seemed to understand the wizard's motivations far better than they did. Lyra nudged Orion, prompting him to apologize to Cassian for his earlier outburst. Then, turning to the angel, she thanked him for sharing his knowledge. Uncertain of their next step in the quest for the Emerald Shards, they decided to make camp and learn more about each other. After all, Cassian's sole purpose was to protect Lyra, but he knew nothing of the people she traveled with, the forces that drove them, or the land they sought to heal. As dawn approached, they exchanged stories, weaving together their pasts and their hopes for the future. Cassian spoke of his life as a warrior angel, sworn to protect his queen. He recounted a devastating battle near the gates of banishment, where, against impossible odds, he lost both his friend and his queen, failing to keep her from harm. He vowed that such a tragedy would not befall Lyra under his watch. Cytherea, her voice laced with genuine sorrow, offered, "I'm deeply sorry for your loss." Cassian visibly relaxed, finding solace in her words. "No need to worry, Lyra," Cytherea added, a hint of steel in her tone. "You now have us both. Cytherea, a great and mighty dragon, as well as Cassian Ironheart, as your stronghold." Orion, shifting back into his hound form, barked playfully, "Hey, what about my safety?" Lyra and Cytherea giggled. "You're fast enough to get away from anything," Lyra teased. Cytherea added, "Plus, you're a shapeshifter. You'll figure something out." Orion let out a frustrated whine. "Not funny, guys." A faint smile flickered across Cassian's usually stoic face. He looked at Orion and asked, I'm guessing the loud one is Orion? Indeed he is loud, but yes, that's Orion for you. And I'm Cytherea. The shimmering angel over there by the trees is Lyra, Cytherea explained. Cassian, with genuine gratitude, thanked her. And so, beneath the watchful gaze of the rising sun, this newly formed group began to solidify their bonds. They were a warrior angel haunted by loss, a shapeshifter that preferred a hound, a dragon bound by duty, and a warrior angel recently joining the quest, an angel carrying the weight of a shattered world on her shoulders. Guided by the echoes of a wizard's dream, they would strive to bring peace to the lands of Luminoria, together. Lyra, a celestial angel with wings that caught the light like spun moonlight, flew beside Cassian, a warrior angel whose own strength and feathers were a testament to his strength and skill. Trailing behind them, cloaked in mist, was Orion, a shapeshifter constantly in joy. He favored the joyful form of a hound, his senses heightened as they pursued their quest to recover the reaming 2 emerald shards scattered across the Luminoria. Lyra, while focused on the task at hand, couldn't deny the quiet flutter in her heart whenever Cassian was near. A warmth bloomed within her, an affection she kept carefully concealed. Cytherea, a dragon of immense power, sensed this romance. It sparked something within her, a fiery emotion that echoed the storm burning within her own soul when they finally located the second shard. Her roar, a primal expression of something she couldn't name, vibrated through the air, startling the others. Cassian, caught off guard by Cytherea's outburst, turned to her, his gaze holding a dawning realization. He saw reflected in the dragon's emerald eyes a truth he hadn't allowed himself to acknowledge, the air whipping with unspoken tension. Then Orion, ever the joyful but clumsy hound, broke the silence. "Why do we need these shards anyway?" His question, voiced in a low growl, echoed the unspoken fears that had questioned them since the beginning of their journey. Before anyone could answer, disaster struck. Clumsy in his shifted form, Orion stumbled, and the precious shard slipped from his back. A collective gasp escaped them as the emerald fragments plunged onto towards the mossy ground. But instead of shattering, they hovered, levitated to mid-air. Then, with a blinding flash of emerald light, they fused together, becoming a single perfectly whole shard, pulsing with an energy they'd never seen. Silence took place upon the group, thicker and more profound than the surrounding mist. They found refuge in a hollow grove, its ancient trees draped with luminous moss. The fused shard, radiating a soft ethereal glow, pulsed with an energy that felt both familiar and utterly lost in words. It thrummed with power, promising answers and demanding a reckoning. For Lyra, the newly formed shard amplified the conflict within her soul. Her secret longing for Cassian warred with the looming shadow of her father's plans. Unknown to her, a marriage had been arranged in Ithra, a union designed to secure alliances with the Dragon Palace where she met Rowan on that desperate day. It was an alliance to amplify her father's power. As Lyra walked onwards alongside Cassian, she remembered her orb. She held the key to open realms as well as return to Ithra, Lyra being so excited as she was for her father to meet Cassian Ironheart. Cytherea soon saw it was not only their quest but the very bonds that held them together. They were reminded of the fused shard, humming with untold potential. Lyra promised to Cassian to illuminate the path ahead, a path fraught with danger, sacrifice, love. But would they like what they found when the truth was finally revealed? Only time and the power of their bond would tell. Orion, the ever-so-joyful hound, bursting with his usual exuberance, jolted awake. "All right, team. Second emerald shard secured. What's the master plan?" He bounced, his gaze now between Lyra, Cytherea, and Cassian. Lyra and Cytherea exchanged hesitant glances. Their hearts ached to return to Ithra, to the home they had left behind for so long. For Cassian, however, the prospect of seeing Ithra for the first time mingled with a deep-seated need to protect Lyra, and a tangle of unrequited emotions he couldn't quite tame. Cytherea's voice, a low rumble, broke the silence. Ithra is a long journey from here. Prepare yourselves. Oriona in hound form, ever so the optimist, couldn't contain his excitement. So you're saying I can run like the wind? Best to stick with us, Orion, Cassian cautioned. Lyra's eyes lit up. I can use my orb. I can open a portal back to Ithra. It would be much faster than the journey. Cassian the battle angel warrior frowned. How does that work? Cytherea's sad tone brought a wave of disappointment. We lost Rowan, the wizard who could have activated it. Lyra sighed, the joy momentarily extinguished. Oh yeah, I forgot. But as she reached to tuck the orb away, a sudden brilliant light erupted from within. Lyra gasped, pulling her hand back. Step away, Lady Lyra, Cassian shouted, fear lacing his voice. The orb pulsed, then cracked open a swirling portal, reflecting a crystal-clear image of Ithra and, standing before the familiar castle, her father King Arkster. Cassian recoiled in shock. Orion, heedless of danger, surged towards the portal. We don't know what to expect, even if we know our destination. Lyra in awe could only whisper, it worked. It worked. Cytherea, ever cautious, voiced her skepticism. Yes, it appears you activated it, Lyra. But how? Lyra, stunned but thrilled, could only offer. I don't know. I just grabbed the orb and it did it. Together they made the decision to trust the magic and step through, hoping it would indeed lead them home. The portal deposited them just beyond Ithra's shimmering, magical barriers. Lyra, bubbling with excitement, was eager to show Cassian her home. But little did she know, a heartbreaking revelation awaited her. Despite Cytherea's attempts to temper Lyra's exuberance, the princess danced across the floating skylands, her joy untamed. Cassian, true to his vow, remained at her side, his gaze unwavering, a silent promise of protection. As they approached the castle, they saw King Arkster overseeing final preparations. Unbeknownst to Lyra, these preparations were for her arranged marriage, designed to forge an alliance with the High King's grandson from the Great Dragon Palace. King Arkster, startled by their sudden appearance, reacted swiftly. Seeing Orion in his hound form, he shouted orders. Guards, seize the beast. Orion, caught off guard, panicked and shifted back to his human form. Arkster, his voice overwhelmed with suspicion, demanded, Who are you? What sorcery is this? Before Orion could answer, Lyra stepped forward, shielding him with a wave of her hand. Father, is he all right? What's going on? Arcturus's face darkened. Lyra, it's good to see you, but what is the meaning of this? Lyra, gesturing to the bewildered Orion, explained, This is Orion, one of my companions. He's a shapeshifter, usually in hound form. Cassian, still vigilant, knelt before the king. My name is Cassian Ironheart. I was entrusted by a wise wizard to protect Lady Lyra, as I have done. He also reminded Arkster that Cytherea was appointed to also safeguard Lyra along her journeys. Arkster exploded, demanding that Cassian be relieved of his duty, and that the guards remove him at once. Lyra's eyes widened, tears welling up as she cried out, Why, father? What has he done wrong? The king silenced his daughter, his rage palpable. But as Cassian was being dragged away, he caught something sinister in the king's actions, a shadow lurking beneath the surface. He struggled against the guards, Cassian shouting, The crown! The crown! You must remove it. Its cursed shadows are consuming the king. Lyra, trusting Cassian's instincts, ignoring her father's words, pushed through the guards, creating an opening for him. Cassian broke free and raced towards the crown, guards shouting after him. He seized it from Arkster's head and slammed it to the ground, shattering a darkened crystal hidden within. The guards froze, their eyes fixed on the broken shard, which then shimmered and transformed into the final emerald shard. Lyra gasped. That's it. The final shard. Meanwhile, Arkster slowly regained his senses. Cassian explained that the crown was tainted with shadows from a dark past, a force that had plagued Ithra long ago. Just then the High King's grandson, heir to the Dragon Palace, arrived, eager to discuss the arranged marriage. Before he could speak, Lyra interrupted, her voice thick with emotion. She spoke of Rowan, how he had saved Cytherea's life, and how he journeyed alongside Lyra had hoped for change and unity within Luminoria, leading to his sacrifice. The High King, saddened by the news of Rowan's sacrifice but moved by Lyra's words, yet said to her, "Lyra, if Rowan put that kind of trust in you, so will I." He further told her that Rowan was doing a great deed but asked the king about the marriage as the alliance. Arcster, prompted by the High King, asked about the alliance and the marriage. The High King replied that Rowan's trust in Lyra was enough to seal the alliance. "You have my trust, King Arcster, and my gratitude, Lyra." He turned to Cassian, thanking him for his service, then asked, "You love Lyra, do you, Cassian?" "Yes, I do, very dearly," Cassian confessed. The High King then turned to Lyra. "And you, Lyra? Do you love Cassian?" Lyra, her eyes shining with love, confessed, "With all my heart." And so it was settled that there they held the marine between Lyra and Cassian's bond, therefore relieving Cassian from his duty, as it were no longer just a duty but as Lyra's husband, a vow. So it came to a true love, not a forced marriage, would forge the alliance between Aethra and the Dragon Palace. Before Orion, still unaccustomed to his human form, could catch his breath, he stumbled into the hall, clutching the 3 emerald shards. In his clumsiness, he nearly dropped them again. As he regained his balance, the shards flew into the air, bathing the room in golden light. Lyra's orb, sensing the completed set, glowed with a blinding intensity. It pulled itself from Lyra's grip, consuming the shards and igniting with power. A new realm opened, swallowing the shadows that had plagued Luminoria. "Wow!" Cassian breathed, dumbstruck. Arcster tried to speak, but the echoes of the shadows still lingered in the castle. Finally, the orb burst into crystallized dust. Luminoria was free of the darkness. The once dark, misty gorge transformed into a clear river that flowed towards the Dragon Palace. The gatekeeper of the underworld was relieved of her duty as her purpose was fulfilled. Darien could finally settle in peace. All thanks to a young angel's dream, shared with a wizard who would never be forgotten. Now with Luminorioa finally pieced the echoes of the legendary wizard Rowan Frostwind as both his and Lyra's dream come true, a Luminorioa free from shadows made whole at last. It didn't take long before every land started hear of Princess Lyra's brave efforts as well as her noble companions beside her that brought such peace to the lands and unite them together from across the mountains to beyond the borders. Lyra's story spread throughout Luminorioa. But there was still something that troubled Lyra as she whispered to her beloved Cassian, "I only wished Rowan could have been here to witness this." Cassian just as much as Lyra thinking the same, but in his kind manner saying to Lyra, "I'm sure Rowan would be proud of you, Lyra, angel of Aethra." Cytherea, guardian protector of Princess Lyra, thought for a while, and soon came to a conclusion. So it seemed the ancient dragon prophecy was a princess. Right in front of Cytherea's eyes, after all, as Lyra had a shrouded history unknown, yet Cytherea in sudden surprise saw what were once the foul shadowed dragons now enlightened, soaring towards Lyra, following her very welcoming command to share Aethra as their new homeland, as Lyra broke the very spell cloaking all of Aethra to welcome all. As a wise wizard once told Lyra, venturing out for a better course is a better opportunity than the safe comfort of a study.